Mic check, mic. Hey all you beautiful people, I'm Terry, better known as Mr. Whitekeys, and today we got something really fun for you. Today we're gonna look at some of the most beautiful, coolest pieces of artisan eyewear out there, and you're gonna help me choose the next pieces that I add to my growing eyewear collection. So I need your help on this one, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun looking at some of the pieces from T. Henri, Masunaga, Matsuda. We'll look at Barton Perreira. We'll look at GöttI of Switzerland. So get excited because we're gonna have some fun today. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Here we like to talk about independent artisan eyewear. We also talk about piano music. So if you like that kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And if you're not new to the channel, thanks for your support and welcome back. So I'm gonna show you some really cool pieces, so don't go anywhere. So we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Today we're gonna talk about wearable art, the eyewear that elevates your life and style. So we're gonna have some fun. You're gonna help me pick my next pieces of eyewear. I'm gonna show you a bunch of things that I'm looking at. And if you could add something into the comments and let me know which ones are your favorites, that will help me decide what's gonna become part of my eyewear collection for 2026. Now I wanna start by talking about Leisure Society Meranos, which is what I'm wearing now. And the color is British Racing Green with a 24 karat gold accent. Now one of the reasons why I want to start by talking about this is because one of the pieces that I'm seriously considering is another pair of Meranos, because this is my favorite shape for my face. But in this case, it'll be a black tortoise with 18 karat rose gold. Not only does it call back to that 1930s, 1920s style of sort of antique glasses, but it creates a canvas upon which I can do so many things with color. As an example, with something like this, I could do a stone gradient tint on the lens itself, a ruby flash mirror on the front. And so the stone gradient interacting with the ruby flash mirror would really bring out the rose gold and complement well against the black tortoise. And also again, call back to that 1930s sort of style. To that, I can maybe add like a ruby or a burgundy transition. There are a lot of things that we can do. That's one of the reasons why I think this is so interesting. And let's look at this for a second. So when you see price, if you see $1 sign, it's maybe around $400-ish. 2 might be above $400, between $400 and 800. If you see 3, that's between 800 and 1,000 or so. If you see 4, it means it's definitely north of 1,000. In many cases, it's several thousand. So this one is not too terribly pricey. This has an eye size of 55, a 21 nose bridge, and 145 millimeter temples. The other thing that I really like about this is I like the laser etched core wire and the laminate window through which it reveals the core wire. I think it's just really neat. And also the constructionist mindset. So you've got screws in the front of the glasses that attach everything. You've got rivets that attach the hinges. You've got screws that attach the core wire to the temple arm. And also, oddly enough, there are screws that attach the nose pads to the glasses. So if something were to happen to one of the nose pads, you can simply replace it. Not often can you do that with glasses. Leisure Society is designed by Shane Baum, who's not only in the Eyewear Hall of Fame, but he's also one of my favorite designers. So this is something that I'm looking at. So another collaboration that's really interesting is between Cutler Gross, which is out of London, and The Great Frog, which is also out of London. The Great Frog is a jewelry company, and they make hard rock jewelry. They're very famous. They've been doing this since 1969. That's about the time that Cutler Gross started as well. And they're famous for skull rings and things like that that are worn by bands like Metallica, Iggy Pop, lots of other hard rock bands. So this is very interesting. This one is called the Bones Link rectangle sunglasses. This particular pair is in a brush stroke Havana, and that's the colorway that I'm interested in because it's different. It's definitely different than anything I've ever seen. So the bone links, you can see them on the temple arms. They're actually made of sterling silver, so it's actual jewelry that's attached to the temple arm. There's also a very interesting chain link core wire, which you can see in the top left picture. Another piece from the same collaboration is called the Lucky Diamond 2. And again, these are rectangle sunglasses. But in this case, you get the daggers on the front of the temples, and then there's a skull and crossbones on the side of the temples in like a diamond pattern. These are also in the brush stroke Havana colorway. And what I need your help on is I need to decide, I don't want to get both of these, at least not at once. I want to decide which of these should I get first. Which do you like more? Do you like the Bone Link sunglasses or do you like the Lucky Diamond sunglasses? So let me know in the comments what you think. There's also another one, the Reaper square sunglasses. These are kind of an oversized look. Iggy Pop is actually featured with these in a number of photos that are very famous. I think these might be a bit much. For me, this is kind of more Elton John kind of out there, and I'm not sure that I'm bold enough to pull this off. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. I love the colorway. I mean, the color is Bordeaux. That color is just fantastic. I wish they had that color in some of the other frames that they have. They have a number of other colorways too. They have a burgundy marble and a forest marble in a pair of frames, an optical frame that is called 1386, and it's a square optical. This is not a collaboration with the Great Frog. These are not very expensive at all. Another really interesting piece from Cutler Gross, and this is not part of that collaboration with the Great Frog. This is just Cutler Gross. It's a 1402, but the colorway is interesting because it's obsidian. And while it is actually made of acetate, somehow they have found a way to simulate natural horn, which if they were actually made of natural horn, these glasses would be north of $4,000 or $5,000 each. They're not. They're fairly reasonably priced. But in any case, the acetate creates that illusion, that look of natural horn. And I think that's kind of interesting. It's also very bulky, thick, chunky acetate, which I like as well. Now, here's another one. This one's very interesting. It's from GöttI Switzerland. And this is actually part of their Dimensions collection, which are all 3D sintered from polyamide, which is like a nylon powder. This particular frame shape is called the Myles, and it comes in both a sunglass and an optical. And the colorway here is blue denim. So something that's very interesting about these is that the fact that they're 3D sintered from polyamide means that in spite of the fact that they're very, very thick and very chunky and they look like they weigh a ton, they actually weigh about like a paperclip. In fact, you could get titanium frames and they would weigh just about as much as the titanium frames or even less. That makes these very interesting. The other thing that makes these interesting is the fact that you can get them in any one of 14 different colorways. So I'll show you those colorways here. These are all the colorways that you can get the frames in, and this is not just true of the Myles, but it's true of any frame that's from the Dimension collection from GöttI. So very, very interesting process. The other thing that makes these interesting to me is because they're very reasonably priced compared to other artisan eyewear. It's definitely worth taking a look. The fact that the polyamide gives it a particular texture, kind of like a marbly porous texture, means that you can get some real interesting looks and some real interesting colors. As an example, when you look at this one is in the blue denim colorway. The fact that it has sort of a porous surface and the denim color is applied to the porous surface literally almost makes it look like a pair of jeans. So that's kind of interesting. So I have some exciting news on this one. I'm actually getting these in a couple of months and I'll be sharing them with you. GöttI Switzerland is actually making me my very own pair. So when you pick colors that are not normally stock, and the color that I picked was Pool, which is the fourth color from the right in the color samples that you see here. So because that's not a color that they normally stock, they have to make these specifically for me. So that's kind of exciting. I'm going to get literally a brand new pair of glasses that are right off the, should I say, the printing press, because they're 3D centered, right? In any case, so I'll be using these as my computer glasses. I had mentioned before that the computer glasses that I'm using now, I had put a gold flash mirror on the front, and I think it makes the frames look great, but it does not make the experience of working on a computer great at all. Note to self, don't put flash mirrors on computer glasses, period. I do not recommend it. And I really can't afford a shift in color of any significance. So what I did, because I didn't want to do a clear lens, is I actually did a blue tint, but I did it in a very light tint, like a 20 to 23% tint. So it's barely noticeable. It's also a color that's not going to dramatically shift colors that you're looking at. And the fact that I did 25% to clear means if they really start to irritate me and I really need to see the color that I'm working with on the computer for something that I'm doing, I just lean my head back and now I'm looking through the clear. So that's something you can think about when you're choosing what tint to add to your lenses. In any case, there'll be a video coming up on that. So on the Myles, this is a 51 eye size, a 19 nose bridge, and a 145 temple arm. Let me show you a couple of other things from the Dimension collection. So this is the Matej. It comes as both a sunglass and an optical. It's also part of the Dimension collection from GöttI Switzerland. At the top here, you see the black colorway, and then just below that, that is the pool colorway, and that's actually the colorway that I'm going to be getting my glasses in. So these are pretty interesting. So for the Matej, this is a 51 eye size, an 18 nose bridge, and a 145 temple arm. And you can see some of the equipment, the machines in the background that they use to do the 3D centering, and you can see some of the emerging glass shapes. This is what they look like right after they do the 3D centering. So then they have to kind of dust them off, they have to polish them, and then they have to color them, and they have to treat them first before they color them. So they have to actually remove rough surfaces and things like that so that it's conducive to being able to take a dye color. So this next one is the Castillo, and it comes in a sunglass and an optical, and this is again part of the Dimension collection. And this has a 55 eye size, so it's a bit larger. Not quite as chunky, but it's larger, and an 18 nose bridge and a 145 temple. Now this next piece, I absolutely adore this piece. I adore the piece itself. I adore the colorway that it comes in. Oh my, this is really something. So this is the Tirreno. It's from the Mararo collaboration between T. Henri and Mararo. Mararo is a 4th generation tailor in Italy, very well known in Italy. So this piece is considerably more expensive than some of the other ones we've looked at. It's a 51 eye size, 19 nose bridge, and a 145 temple arm. Now there are a lot of things that make this piece unique. The first thing is the color. They call it Ravello, which is a red with 24 karat gold accents. The 24 karat gold was chosen because it really has a color that just pops with the red, as you can see that. The other thing that's very interesting, and I didn't notice this until I was just looking at it, is the fact that the frame front has a piece on each side, like an end piece on each side, that comes out from the frame to meet the temple arm. And my first hint was noticing that there are 6 decorative screws that attach the core wire and the hinge to the temple arm. And I wondered why there were 6 instead of the normal 3 that I'm used to seeing with T. Henri. And the reason is because there's this piece that's actually part of the frame front that extends up about 13, 14 millimeters. Just really, really interesting. And then the question becomes, how do they do that? You don't see anything where they're actually attaching a piece of acetate. This probably has to be milled from a block of acetate at least 13 millimeters thick instead of just the tablet of acetate that they usually do. And actually it wouldn't be 14 millimeters, it would be the frame front, which I believe is 10 millimeters thick, plus that 14 millimeters. So it'd have to be 24 millimeters thick. And they'd have to mill all of that out. I have no idea how they cut the eye holes for something like that, but I think that's why they did this. They did this to pretty much tell the rest of the eyewear industry, try and keep up, because the things that went into making this frame are just mind-boggling. You can see the 24 karat gold, you can see the rivets, you see the beveled brow line. It's beveled sort of towards you to reflect more light, which really gives it that kind of beautiful look. It has combinations of enamel rather than paint. It has gold decorative fasteners on the front of the frame with the T. Henri logo. It has a 9-barrel hinge. I literally am not aware of any other eyewear maker that has ever produced a 9-barrel hinge, but here it is. Now, this is a gorgeous piece. It's probably one of my favorites. I really wanted something like this for my collection. The sad news is they're sold out worldwide, and I think they only made 149 pieces or something like that, and they're all gone. They're all sold out. And if you try to get this on eBay, it'll cost you several times what the initial MSRP was. So in any case, so this one's gone, but I wanted to show you this just to kind of show you what's going on in the eyewear industry and what kinds of things you can expect from T. Henri. And when they come out with something like this, you really got to jump on it fast because they sell out sometimes before they even hit the eyewear stores. Now here's another one. This one is very interesting. It's the same frame, and I've got some different angles there. So you can see the hinge lug. It has the logo for Mararo on the hinge lug, so that's kind of neat. You can clearly see the 9-barrel hinge from the opposite direction. You can also see that piece that I was talking about that extends from the frame front and comes out to meet the temple arm. So that's interesting. The temple arm ends up being mitered at 90 degrees as opposed to having to account for the panoscopic tilt. The panoscopic tilt is already sort of built into that stub, which makes it a little bit easier than to add the temple arm and add it in such a way that it's a 90 degree and it opens and closes directly at a 90 degree angle. It removes a lot of the complexity there. You can also see the detailed coining work on the core wire. The core wire is also 24 karat gold. This colorway is called Capri. Capri is sort of like a deep, deep blue, almost purple. It almost reads black on the face, but it's just blue enough that it really makes that 24 karat gold pop. I absolutely love this colorway. I absolutely love this frame. And I have some exciting news. I'll be doing a review of this in detail in a couple of weeks because I will be receiving this frame in a couple of weeks. So we'll talk about this in more detail when I get there. Another thing that's really interesting, since we're talking about T. Henri, is the Maison Galactique collection. And this is sort of like a space-inspired collection of frames. This particular one you're looking at is called the CO2. And what makes it interesting is, it's not obvious from these pictures, but you'll see a couple more in just a minute. I'll talk about it more in detail. But in any case, there is a piece of a meteorite that landed near the border of Sweden that has caused the jewelry industry to just go insane. Well, T. Henri has taken a piece of this meteorite, which is beautiful because it has all the striations and things like that that occur in a meteor as it travels through the atmosphere at roughly 42,000 miles per hour to its final resting place. They believe that this piece of meteorite is about 4.5 billion years old, and it's been on the earth for over 1 million years. In any case, so that is actually embedded in the temple arm. Sometimes for some of the models, they'll put it in the front. For other models, they'll put it kind of in the back of the temple arm, right behind the ear. But in any case, very, very beautiful. And this particular colorway is called the Equinox. These are all micro production, 149 pieces, and you'll probably have a hard time trying to find one of these because I think most of them, if not all of them, are completely sold out worldwide. This one is a very interesting piece. I like the way that they put the silver on titanium nose bridge and nose pads. It really works well with the Equinox colorway, which is sort of like a demi-amber blending to a lighter and clear, almost like champagne at the bottom. So it's very, very interesting. These are 9-barrel hinges. And this collection is very special. When you look on the temple arm, you'll also see the North Star in gold. And then another thing that makes these very interesting is the dual core wire, which I've never seen before. So there's a core wire on the front part of the temple arm, and then a separate core wire on the back part of the temple arm. And I have questions about how they're able to achieve that, but I imagine everyone that looks at this probably has some similar questions. But the construction of this literally just boggles the mind. So this is a very interesting piece. It's also a very bold piece. Not sure if I would wear this one to work, but certainly a piece that will get you noticed. Another aspect of this that really makes this unique is the unboxing experience. So it comes in a box the size of the seat cushion you're probably sitting on, like a sofa seat cushion. It's a ginormous box. And in that box, you not only get a very large eyeglass case that's silver, which makes it look sort of like a lunar lander or something like that, but you actually get a lunar lander. So they've created this lunar lander looking case. It's like a stand-up case that you use to just set your glasses in temporarily, maybe when you're in the house or you're in the office or maybe next to your bed or something like that. And you just put the glasses in there, and it's beautiful. It looks like a lunar lander. It's got like the little feet and stuff like that, like the eagle has landed, that kind of thing. And it also has a multi-layer paint finish to it that is as impressive as the frames themselves. So like the multi-layered, multi-process that you use to paint a car and get that fleck metal effect and the paint. Well, they went to all of that trouble with this standing case. So that's kind of interesting. And then of course you get a book, a hardbound book that tells you all about the meteorite that's part of this. It tells you all about the collection and what inspired the collection and more about T. Henri. It's really neat. So it comes with a lot of stuff. And the unboxing experience, I can't really think of an unboxing experience that's more impressive than this particular frame from the Maison Galactique collection. Here's also from the Maison Galactique, and it's also a CO2. This is the black colorway. So I think this one's really neat. It's got a lot of combination of like gold and silver. So a lot of times you'll see with black, you'll either see gold or silver. In this case, you've got both gold and silver, and you can see that it looks equally well on a man as well as on a woman. This is a 50 eye size, a 23 nose bridge, and a 145 temple. Here's another one that I really like, and part of what I like is it's not quite as expensive and almost out of reach as the Maison Galactique collection. This one is called the Rossi, and this is also the Equinox colorway. This is a micro production piece. It's limited to 149 pieces, but what I love about this is I love the fact that this has such a fat temple arm. You know, if you like the Wayfarer style sunglasses with the flared temple arm, well, this takes it to an entirely another level, okay? It's thick enough that it actually acts as sort of a side shield, so it has some practical benefits. One of the practical benefits it does not have is peripheral vision, but in any case, it does kind of keep in some of that extra light from coming in from the sides. And you can see just how amazing this looks. I would do this one in like an almond to gold double gradient tint with probably an extra active brown transition. I think this would look fantastic in something like that. So let me know what you think of this one, because this is one that I'm thinking about getting. This is another one. So Matsuda has a long history. Matsuda has been producing eyewear for many, many years in Japan, and their production was briefly interrupted, but was taken up again about, I think it's 20 years ago. Matsuda has a long and storied history that came out of not only the Japanese eyewear tradition, but also out of the fashion industry, the Japanese fashion industry. This is an interesting piece. This is the M1033 sunglass. It used to come in two eye sizes, 50/21 143 and a 53/21 146. Now I say used to, they no longer manufacture the larger eye size, the 53 eye size, but there are still places that you can find on the internet that sell them in the larger eye size, and that's what I'm looking for. So the open question for me is, am I actually going to be able to acquire the larger eye size? Because if I'm not, I'm probably not going to get these. But this fulfills a slot in my collection. I need something that's bold and black, and this certainly fits the bill. I love the core wire. The core wire is absolutely fascinating. There's a traditional M and N repeating logo in the core wire and also in the temple lug, the gold temple lug. And Nicole was the fashion designer company that Matsuda started. It has almost like a TV style sunken lenses and a very square set of lenses. So they're square, it has a low base curve, the lenses themselves are relatively flat, and that is traditional sort of Japanese style. It also makes them just really pop, because when you look at them, the way the light reflects off of them is just really interesting. So this is something I was thinking about, and if I did something like this, I would probably do a burgundy gradient tint, and I would probably add a blue flash mirror, because I've just got so many gold flash mirrors. Gold flash mirror would look great, but I'd probably put a blue flash mirror on this one. And if you've ever seen blue and red interact with each other, it creates this 3D sort of look, and I think it would just look astounding on these glasses. And then I would probably finish the look off with a ruby transition, so that in the sunlight you get that red with the black with the gold. I think it would absolutely be fantastic. So that's a piece that I'm looking at. They also have a blue one. I'm probably not going to get this because I just got the blue Tirreno that we were talking about, and this would kind of be redundant to that. So I'm going to focus more on the black one, but I wanted to show you this blue colorway because it's very interesting. And this blue is pretty dark. It's like a crystal blue, but it's pretty dark, not as dark as the Tirreno, but it's translucent and it reads almost black on the skin, or depending on what kind of lighting that that you're in. Another one from Matsuda that I think is really interesting is the M1040, and these come as a sunglass, but what's interesting about it is it's got this sort of dual rim thing going. It has an acetate rim, and then it has a titanium inner rim that really just looks fantastic. And this blue demi colorway is something else. And what it does to the detailed corning work on the core wire, you can kind of see through it, is just fantastic. So this is another one that I would probably do. Not sure how I would do the tints or anything like that. We can figure that out later. Let me know what you think of the M1040. Another one that I really like is by T. Henri, and I like T. Henri a lot, as you can probably tell. This one is called the Dusenberg, and it honors the 1932 Dusenberg car. You can see this sort of fat piece that's on the side is reminiscent of the kind of the hood of the Dusenberg, and I think this is a great piece. This one has these thick temple arms that T. Henri is known for. It has the jeweled temple arms, and what really makes this interesting to me is it's not just gold or silver, it's both on the side of the temple arm. So that's really interesting. So I like these a lot. Sadly, however, I don't think anyone will ever be able to get a Shadow 2, which is the black, and that's the one that I'm showing now, because they're all sold out worldwide. Apparently, I'm not the only one that likes these. Now, the colorway that is left, by the way, here's a picture of the Dusenberg itself that I was talking about, right? This is a different colorway. This colorway is called a Shamrock, and it's basically it's a green. It's like a crystal green. You can see it's got some highlights and lowlights there. It's not quite tortoise or anything, but it has some highlights and lowlights in terms of the color, mainly driven by the thickness, the variations in thickness of the frame. And with this one, the clear laminate acetate window is on the inside of the temple arm as opposed to on the outside. You can still see the temple arm and the core wire through the temple itself, but on the inside you have that clear acetate window and you can see the gold coining work on the temple arm itself. So this one is pretty neat, and it's available. This is a 49 eye size, a 22 nose bridge, and a 149 temple arm. So the temple arms are quite long. I really like the way this one looks. I would rock this color, but I would like your thoughts on this. I mean, it's an unusual color, and maybe that's why I like it, but it might also be the reason why I probably shouldn't get it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one. Now this one, let's just go back to old standards. I have a lot of Masunagas. I actually have a lot of Masunaga 100s. I love them. This is just the black colorway. So it's a glossy black, which is colorway number 19, as opposed to the matte black. I think that's colorway 35, if I remember correctly. But in any case, this is the glossy black. It's not super fancy, but it has black and gold. It's extremely well made, and just quiet luxury that doesn't shout. And I would probably do the same thing in this. I don't want to get multiple black frames, so I either want to get the Dusenberg in black, which I think that ship has sailed. I want to get the Matsuda 1033 in black, if I can find it in the right eye size. If I can't find any of those, I recently discovered that there actually is another Tirreno that I might be able to get my hands on that's actually in a black and silver colorway. So if the Tirreno is available, I might do that. My fallback position would be to get like a 100 and do the same thing with the lenses. So I would do a burgundy gradient, I would do a blue flash mirror, and I would probably do a ruby transition. Another thing that would be really interesting, if I did end up getting two black ones like this, right? Maybe, and if I did, it would be like the 100 and something else. But one of the things I might do, and I would do it to the 100, is I might do a Zeiss lens, and I might do something like a stone gradient of some kind, and I might use a ruby flash mirror. I might do the blue photo fusion by Zeiss, and their blue is very, very blue, and it is a stunning combination when combined with a glossy black frame like the Masunaga 100. It is a stunning combination. Fashion wise, it checks all the boxes. The only disadvantage is looking through the blue photo fusion that Zeiss has come up with can be a little annoying because it's very blue and it colors the world very, very blue, and it's a bit much for a lot of people. But in any case, that would be my thoughts for the Masunaga 100. Masunaga 100 is extremely reasonably priced. Another one that's in that same price range is the Masunaga Tona, and this one is the blue colorway, which is colorway number 35. This is an interesting frame because it has a frame front that's acetate. It does not have nose pads, and nose pads tend to be uncomfortable for me, but it has titanium temple arm. And I'm wondering if this might be even one step more comfortable than the Masunaga 100s, which I love. They are the most comfortable pairs of glasses I've ever put on my face. So I have to mention that. The Masunaga 100s are easily the most comfortable glasses I've ever put on my face. And so they are now my standard by which I judge comfort in all glasses. They are amazing. If you don't have a pair, you need to get on game and get yourself a pair. But the Tonas, I wonder if these would be even more comfortable because of the titanium temple arms and then the acetate frame front. It might just be a winner. And it's a 50 eye size with a 20 nose bridge and a 143 temple arm. So this is something I'm definitely looking at. And finally, no presentation would be complete without Barton Perreira. So this is the Barton Perreira. Now they're not independent eyewear, so cut me some slack on that one. However, they are still handmade in Japan and they are not Luxottica. But when you look at this frame, you can tell that it is next level. First, I want to call your attention to the matte midnight colorway, which is quite possibly the most amazing colorway in the eyewear industry. I mean, look at this color. This is absolutely fantastic. The way the light dances off of that. And that brings me to another point, and that is all of the bevels and curves and double beveling and sunken rim, all of these details. When you look across this frame, and especially at the corners where the temple arms meet the frame front, there's a lot of beveling that is absolutely just amazing. And this one comes in 2 eye sizes. It comes in a 50 eye size and a 55 eye size, or I think it might be a 53 and a 55. But in any case, so this one is a 55 eye size, 20 nose bridge, and 150 temple arm. Now, sadly, I believe that the 55 eye size is out of production now. So the only place that you can get it is if you can find somebody that's still got one on a shelf, and you can get these. And I think I have a couple of sources where I might be able to pick something like that up. So that's definitely something that I'm thinking about. This is an absolutely beautiful piece. It's also not very expensive at all. So that's all I've got. Remember to like and subscribe. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to kind of give it some thought, maybe go back through the video a couple of times and take a look at some of these. And of course, if you're inspired by one of these, you might want to reach out to Hicks Brunson Eyewear. Hicks Brunson does not carry Barton Perreira. They do not carry Cutler Gross. They do not carry Matsuda. But the rest of the frames that I've shown you, they do carry. And so that's your first stop would be Hicks Brunson Eyewear. And if not, they can probably point you to where you can get some of these. In any case, I'd like some conversation in the comments about which of these are your favorites, especially the ones that tend to be kind of similar. I want to narrow those down. And I would love to get your impressions so that they can guide me as I select the pieces that I'm going to add to my collection in 2026. So thanks for your help on this. Put some comments down below and let me know which one of these frames are your favorites. So thanks again for your help. And that's all I got for you today. I'll see you in the next video.